soon. I'm going to abandon ship and try another day. So I was away all day out of the house. I came home. I looked at a bunch of my mail and my social media messages, and I see a lot of people were asking for my opinion and my take on the Oncosec Medical conference call. Well, here's what I think. First of all, do your own due diligence. My opinions are strictly my own and do not constitute investment advice. And at this point, if you were in Oncosec Medical yesterday, you took a 50% haircut, an undeserved haircut because the data readout was really quite impressive, excellent in many respects. Not in every respect, but if it had been much better, it would have been deemed a miracle drug. So, I mean, basically, they looked at the first 9 to be treated as kind of at random, and these were patients, very sick patients, who had failed Keytruda or Opdivo or another checkpoint inhibitor, and basically had nowhere to turn. Were just, if not for Tavo, would be hospice bound, pretty much. So Tavo saved 3 people's lives out of 9, essentially, by creating partial responses in 2 of them and stable disease in the other one. And in the entire, out of all the 9 that got Tavo, there was an immune response noted, and the kind of response that was expected. So from a scientific point of view, according to the scientists that spoke at the conference call today, things went as about as expected. And one of the scientists said that it was no fluke, meaning that these results will be replicated or should be replicated in a larger population. So let's examine this again. A fellow, I should have gotten their name straight. It wasn't Dan O'Connor. He turned the scientific talk over to others. But one of the scientists at Oncosec, I don't know if he's a medical doctor or what, or researcher, said, well, if 35% respond to checkpoint inhibitors like Keytruda, and another 25%, 3 out of 9, I suppose is what he was referring to, respond to Tavo combination with a checkpoint inhibitor like Keytruda, then that means 60% of metastatic melanoma patients, I suppose stage 4, will have a durable response and could live a long time. Well, that's pretty phenomenal. Now, I don't know if it's actually 25%. I think he hemmed and hawed about the 25% as well. But he said, for example, 25%, that would bring the total to 60% durable response, which is really quite excellent. That's my first point. Of course, if it's 25% of the remaining 65%, it's really less than 25% of the initial population. But who's going to quibble? Anyway, my next point is really got to do with the trial design. It annoys me that in most of these trial designs and the little biotechs, the FDA makes you jump through hoops to get approval. You must have the most rigorous, demanding endpoints. It just doesn't make sense to me. For example, why not test Tavo first with Keytruda second as a first standard of care? Maybe instead of 35 plus 25, you might get 75 not doing it that way. Just doesn't make sense. They said something, they addressed that issue. The answer was, by designing it this way, it would be more likely to gain approval by the FDA. So I guess it's a salvage treatment to salvage those who have no other choice, and therefore the FDA is more lenient. I think the FDA has to be more lenient, period. Because if the new standard of care is 5% better than the old standard of care, then that's, in my mind, significant. What, 10% better? What do they want? 80% better? So the FDA is a problem, I think, for all drug companies. I think the FDA in our country has to take lessons from Europe and China and Japan and not quite be as strict. It's just hampers these trial designs, hampers new drugs coming to market. So that's really some of my impressions on Oncosec. Now, as to the price of Oncosec, it was a major sell-off, overdone, unmerited, unwarranted. My main concern with Oncosec is the fact that they need money and that they have an ATM. So while the stock I do believe will come back, and I'll show you my fib retracement numbers in a minute, I think it'll be hampered by the constant selling on the open market by Oncosec. And that stands to reason. In any event, let's take a quick look at the chart of Oncosec, and that'll conclude my remarks about the conference call, which I thought was a good call, by the way, for the most part. I think the whole thing was terribly misinterpreted by the public, by institutions, by analysts even. So let's take a look at Oncosec. I know I immediately posted promising results. That was my remark. I thought they were good. Okay, so Oncosec collapsed from a high 3 days ago of $1.96 to a low today of 62 cents. Came back to close at 87 cents. Was as high as 89 cents after hours. So it made a nice comeback from its lows. You could have the astute traders could have made good money. In any event, I didn't touch my position. I'm still 100% long and still feeling quite strong. I don't like being down on paper, but you know, I'm gonna say that I'm gonna make money on this if I hold it long enough. And if Dan O'Connor is as good a CEO as I think he is, that's the other aspect. This is where the skill of Dan O'Connor comes in. He's going to bring it back to above $1. Notice $1.16 would be the 38.2 fib retracement. I have it backwards. I drew it the wrong way, so this is really 32% from the bottom, and this is 50%. You can't draw 50% the wrong way. So 50% is about, where is it? $1.30, something like that. I don't know. $1.30 looks about right. So I think by the end of the year, Oncosec Medical could be trading about halfway back at $1.30. And that also is synonymous with this key low of 9.1 of $1.32. So I think this is where we get resistance come over the next few months. We overcome that hurdle, I think we'll be back in business. So this is just a temporary setback in my mind. I mean, we may see some volatility down here in the 80s, 70s even, but I'm not too concerned. Probably an opportunity to add, which I probably will do. So that's my feelings on Oncosec. I mean, it's one man's opinion. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I could be wrong again. I don't feel like I was wrong to hold my position of Oncosec. In fact, I feel that holding my position was justified by today's conference call, today's data readout, and the SITC conference, and the presentation by Oncosec. So it's just a matter of the market has it wrong. Dr. J has it right. Adios, amigos. Please subscribe. Hasta luego, arrivederci, ciao.